Welcome everyone to another ProVeg and Knorr cooking demonstration. We are super excited to be making a very delicious little plant-based snack today using two Knorr products. And the dish that we are making are spicy onion bhajis. We tested it last night and we are very excited to be eating it again tonight and to share the recipe with all of you.
And they're very, very simple. You know, this is the kind of thing if you want to show off that you have arrival snacks or maybe even a starter or something. If you're at a dinner party, you know, most people when they have a dinner party, it's like, you know, some mac and cheese or a burger. There's a nice little thing that literally is going to take us, less than 10 minutes to make, and they taste fantastic. Little disclaimer, not the healthiest thing that we've ever cooked, but you know, it is a snack, and you know, if you would usually be eating sort of Doritos, then you know, maybe this is better.
Yeah, this is definitely something that you can have on arrival, and even when you realize 30 minutes before your guests come or when they arrive that you don't have anything for them to snack on, you can quickly put this recipe together and fry it up.
And it's amazing because the ingredients are generally the kind of things that you might have or should have around the house. You know, there's always an onion in the onion drawer, in the veggie drawer, and just herbs and spices, some flour. We're going to use the recipe here uses chickpea flour. So obviously chickpea flour a little bit better from a health point of view than regular flour. When you grind up grains, that increases the glycemic index. So there's more sugar released faster. But when you do the same thing to pulses, it doesn't happen. So when you make hummus out of chickpeas, you're not increasing the glycemic index. And when you make flour out of chickpeas, it's the same thing. So it's just a little bit of an improvement, I think.
So on that note, let's go through all of the ingredients that we are going to use. Like Don said, we are going to use an onion because they are called spicy onion bhajis.
We're going to use a biggish onion. You know, with this recipe, when we tried it, we think we could probably even fit 2 onions in there. You know, you really want to get a lot of onion in there. It mustn't be as much of a frittata, sort of like a veg fritter. More onion is probably going to taste better if you like the onion.
No, exactly. It's not a savory flapjack, which is the mistake that I have made in the past. It should be onion with a little bit of batter to keep it together and to give it some spice with the spices that we are going to use. So you do want to use a big onion.
Although the onion flapjacks that Leo made were actually really good. So, you know, this is definitely one of those kind of recipes that you can make them any way you want them. Again, we're going to be shallow frying them in a pan. Usually if you went to a restaurant and got this, it would be deep fried. So if you want to have a nice, perfect, super crispy, round bhaji, then deep fried probably better. Or you can pan fry it. The less oil you use, the more the balls are probably going to flatten up. But again, they still taste nice as flat little snacks as well.
So onion, 1 or 2. Then we are using chana, which is chickpea flour. If you don't have chickpea flour, you can also use regular flour, but like Don explained a little bit earlier, the chickpea flour is a better option. And then our first star ingredient from Knorr is the Knorr brown onion soup. We have used this in a previous recipe. It's something that we usually have in the flat. The white onion soup and the brown onion soup, we use it for a variety of recipes. And
just on that flour, if you don't have this flour, you can use regular flour, but like I said in the beginning, this is the ingredients are the kind of thing you maybe should have in your pantry. Chickpea flour really useful for lots of things. You can be used in a lot of places. The normal flour can be used, but our favorite use for chickpea flour is chickpea omelets. So if you want to have a plant-based version of omelets, just chickpea flour and water and some herbs and spices, and it's a fantastic way to go.
Then, because it's called spicy onion bhajis, we are having curry powder, and we have the hot curry powder here. If you are not a fan of very spicy food, you can also use medium to hot or mild curry powder. But if you've been following our recipes, you know by now that I really like things quite spicy. And on that note, we also have chili flakes for some extra bite. We have a little bit of turmeric, which is a great anti-inflammatory. We have some baking powder just to give it a little bit of a rise, and then we have oil for frying. Like Don said, sometimes they are being deep fried, but today we are going to shallow fry our bhajis.
And we're using B-Wok, canola and olive.
And then finally, to enjoy our bhajis with, we are using the Knorr sweet chili sauce, which is really nice. We tasted it earlier and last night, and it's actually a creamy sweet chili sauce. And you wouldn't necessarily think that a creamy sauce would be vegan, but 100% vegan and super delicious. So, should we get started?
Yes, we've turned our pan on so it's starting to get hot. I think if you're at home, especially if you are going for the deep fry option, you definitely want to start getting your oil hot. If you're shallow frying it, you don't really need to put on yet, but get ready. We've just got it on low heat so it doesn't take long to heat up.
Okay. So first step is to cut our onion in thin slices, and Don will be doing the cutting of the onion because I usually cut my fingers when I cut the onion.
And we want to go quite thin, but not too thin. If you make them too thin, they're going to basically sort of fall apart when you start frying.
Don't know if you can see.
Yeah, it's hard to tell, but
you can see there, kind of there.
It's, if they're too thick, it's probably not going to be a huge problem, and if they're too thin, it can be a bit of an issue sometimes.
And like I said, this recipe is super quick and easy. We are literally chopping the onion, slicing the onion, and then we are mixing our dry ingredients, adding a little bit of water to create a batter, putting the onion in the batter and frying it up. That's how quick and easy it is. And also inexpensive, and Don's crying. Onion crying.
Every time I cut onions, I then tell people the trick is we cut it in half, rinse it under water, and that'll stop some of the sort of the onion fumes coming up. And every time I forget to do that, and so now that is something we could have done. But now we're going to put it in water.
Yes. So the recipe says that you need to soak your onions in water for about 5 minutes. And I think that's just to soften the onions up a little bit before you fry them.
Oops.
Don's messing. That means Don's going to clean as well. Okay, so our onions are in water, and while our onions are soaking, I'm going to show you how we are mixing up our dry ingredients. So we can swap. The onions and water can go over there. The first ingredient is our chickpea flour, and you need 100 grams, which is about 1 cup of chickpea flour. I do have a little scale that I use in the kitchen. If you are using a scale, remember to put your container on first to see how much the container weighs before you put in the flour, and forget to deduct the weight of the container. So I'm just putting this on 0. And luckily for me, I tested it yesterday, and I know that it is about 1 cup of chickpea flour. Over the weekend, we actually visited a restaurant, Need, and for breakfast, and I had chickpea flour, I'm the one missing, chickpea flour scramble instead of tofu scramble, and it was really nice. It was really interesting. It's the first time I had chickpea flour scramble.
We're not sure exactly how they do it, but they make it something that resembles scrambled egg with using chickpea flour. So they're well done to Need on doing that.
Okay, so 1 cup of chickpea flour going in. Then we're going to add our packet of brown onion soup. Can you cut that open for me, please? I'm going to add the chili powder so long. So it all depends on how spicy you like it. The recipe says 15 mils, so that's about 3 teaspoons or 1 tablespoon. Like I said, I like it.
We're using the whole packet?
Yes, whole packet of brown onion soup.
What this is going to do, this is already a savory snack, but this really gives it a really strong umami flavor, and it just means, usually if you made these, you would be adding maybe some herbs and spice, some herbs that we're not adding, and maybe some garlic or ginger or something like that. This just means that we don't have to add a lot of different types of ingredients to get something that's really full of flavor.
And brown onion soup is also a great thickener, just so that you know, if you do want to thicken up a stew or a curry, that is a fantastic way to add flavor and texture.
This one and the white onion soup powder, we use quite a lot.
So that was 3 teaspoons of curry powder. Now we're going to add 1 teaspoon of turmeric, ground turmeric. a 1/4 teaspoon of chili powder or more if you want a little bit more bite. 1 teaspoon of baking powder. Just because it is still a batter and you do want it to create a layer around the onions.
Okay, I've just put the pan on high now so we can get it nice and hot.
Okay, so that's all of our dry ingredients that we're going to mix up. Make
And
sure.
if you're a pro, you might have sieved this so that it wasn't lumpy, but we're not really pros. So. And
Actually, I'll sieve this wet because of the onions that I'm about to drain, and then I washed it. So
yeah, like I said, we're not pros. Pros don't drain wet onions with a sieve.
I do.
Okay, what's next?
Okay, next we're going to add our water to create a batter. So Don has mixed all of the dry ingredients. This is about 100 milliliters of water.
So here's one of my tricks that I wanted Leo to listen to. Don't add all the water in one go. Add some water, mix it, see how the batter comes out. If it's too runny, you can't take the water out. So let's start with maybe half of the water, mix it. We don't want to have like a really runny batter unless you want to go for like the more flapjacky kind of thin snacks.
Okay, so I'm going to add half of the water first. It's off.
When we watched how to make these on YouTube, everyone just used their hands, but we are going to respect the COVID protocols in this house and not stick our hands in there. Okay, you want to
Strain the onions.
Strain the onions.
Just remember the onions will also be a little bit wetter. I'm going to strain it, but and I'm going to tap it dry. But very important, like Don said, don't add all of the water.
You don't need to tap it dry. If you get the perfect consistency of your batter and then you add wet onions, it's obviously going to change it. So I'd suggest adding your onions before you commit to how much water you're putting in there.
That's a good tip.
Or you can try dry your onions first. That sounds like a mission.
Okay, our onions have been strained. And warm or cold water? Cold water. That's actually a good question. Because I thought it needed to be hot water, and then we googled it and everything.
We used cold water in this recipe. When we googled it, the pros also use cold water, so I figured cold water is the way to go.
Okay, I'm adding in our onions.
How long did we soak it for? I think that we probably should have soaked it for longer. If you're at home, maybe soak your onions for a little bit longer. The idea is kind of that when you've got the onion, if it's a freshly cut onion and you bend it, it's going to snap. It's going to make like a little crunchy sound, and you want to get rid of that. So we have got rid of at least a little bit of that. The onion's definitely not as like crunchy as it would have been before, but maybe just make sure you're getting a good 5 minutes in there. And then we're gonna you want to stick a little bit more water in there?
Okay.
Did you stir this when you made it last night?
Yeah.
Or did you use your hands?
No, I stirred it, but I used a bigger spoon.
I think we should use our hands.
Okay.
Do you want to use a little bit more water?
That's 100 mils.
Okay, so I said we weren't going to use our hands because of COVID, but
It's only me and you.
I think it's going to be a lot quicker and a lot more fun if I just dig in here. Because also, like I said, we don't want to make it too runny, and using our hands is really going to help us to make sure that we don't need to add more water to get it going. And you can see there, if you can maybe get the camera a bit closer, you can see it was a bit of a difficult thing to stir, but using our hands, we can really just get all of this batter into the onions and around the onions.
Do you want to show them? Because your hands are quite big and in the way. There we go.
So basically, we kind of want to be able to make little onion balls, and not necessarily be like pouring like pancake mix into the pan.
I like my onion flapjacks. I'm going to make them again.
And then, I mean, if you do want to make them a little bit runnier, the recipe does say scoop a tablespoon of the batter, and so if you don't want to make it all like gross like this, that is obviously another way of doing it. Do you want to just check on the oil? So you know what we're doing there?
So the recipe suggested that you take a little bit of the batter and put it in the pan to see if the oil is hot enough. And if the batter starts bubbling and the onion starts sizzling, then you know that it is hot.
So what we didn't do when I cut the onions, it's good to maybe cut them in slices and then chop them the other way. But you don't have to do that. I like it nice and chunky and big. So you can see when I make this, it's going to be quite a messy thing. I don't want to really make like perfectly round falafel balls. It's just going to be like, I think the best word for it would be like a gloop of batter. So do you want to move this across to that side?
I'll move you guys now. Okay, time to fry them up.
Okay, so dropping the first one in, and you'll see it gives it a big sizzle. And again, if you soak your onions for a little bit longer, they'll be a little bit softer, so it'll be easier to make them into a little ball. But I like this very rough sort of texture that I got with these big onions. Okay, and then you can just turn the oil down a little bit. You want the oil to be relatively hot, but you don't need it to be smoking, which I was about to do.
No, you don't want your balls to burn before the batter cooks. You having fun there?
Yeah. Like I said, if we were deep frying these would just fry up in like less than a minute, probably 30 seconds, and they would really hold the shape that you're putting them in. And that was probably a little bit too big. What did you put the
on 4.
Okay, let's just make 4 of them for now. We haven't tested this in the air fryer yet, but I think it's possible. You would just have to do quite a bit of cleaning in your air fryer afterwards, or just make your batter a lot thicker. I'm just going to wash my hands quickly.
No problem, I'll check for that. I'm just moving the oil around a little bit so it's evenly distributed. And by the time John comes back, you can probably flip them over. You can see they are starting to bubble on the sides.
So you can see if you deep fry them, they'll keep this shape exactly like this. I mean, again, you probably should have cut the onions twice and soaked them for a bit longer so they're a bit softer. Most people, I think, would probably prefer to have slightly smaller balls, like a bite-sized snack. But I like eating these things like they're, I don't know, like a big starter.
Okay, you want to flip them?
I'm just going to put the lid on for a bit, just so the batter thickens a little bit. So when I flip them, they don't completely fall apart. Again, if you wouldn't have this problem if you were deep frying, but we're hoping to not eat too much oil with our bhajis.
I just think it's amazing that we don't have to now rush to prepare a dipping sauce.
Yeah, so let's see us while we're doing this. We usually would probably if we knew we were having guests over, we would make a hummus or make a dipping sauce. But it's really convenient to be able to have something like the sweet chili sauce.
You know what this reminds me of is like the runny, sugary sweet chili sauce, but mixed with almost like a spur white sauce.
Yeah.
That's what this reminds me of. And it's really, really yummy.
Okay, I'm going to give these guys a little flip here.
Okay. Reverse it.
And you can see the back so is nice good. And I can feel it's crispy. Kind of like how onion rings would be. So like imagine this is like, I don't know, to me it's sort of like an onion ring ball. Well, that one also looks great.
Yeah.
And like I said, we're making big ones because that's how I like them. Well, it's not huge, but this is definitely not a 1-bite snack. This is like a 2 or 3-bite snack.
Might be a 1-bite snack for you. Yeah, I would make mine a little bit smaller, I think, but each to their own.
Okay, you put some sweet chili sauce in a ramekin for us?
I'll start to do that. And how many of those bites do you think one batter makes? About 6?
Probably about 8. But if you make them smaller, if you cut your onions twice and you've let them soak for a bit longer and you want to make them smaller, you make them like golf ball size, I would say. And then you're probably getting at least 10, 12 out of there, maybe even more.
When I made them into more flapjacky type, I made about 4, 8, 12, probably about 16.
And we've put the lid back on just because ours are quite big, so right in the middle they're not going to be getting cooked by the oil so quickly, so we really want to get them nice and warm so they're not stodgy and undercooked in the middle and then burnt on the outside. But again, if you're deep frying them, you probably won't have that problem. When you deep fry stuff, usually the rule is when it starts floating, it's basically done. You know, that's when I used to work with fries, that was always the trick with deep frying nuggets. When it floats, they're usually done.
I prefer shallow frying, so I'm very happy that we're not trying to deep fry these onion bites today.
Oh, that's looking really good.
Yeah, they do look very yum. And then I've just put some paper towels on a plate over here so that we can take it out of the oil and strain the excess oil off the Bhajis.
Okay, I'm taking them out.
Yeah.
Oops. Oh, I think they can actually go for a little bit longer, that one.
And also you can add some fresh herbs to this. I would love some fresh coriander actually in these bites.
Yeah, some coriander would be quite a traditional thing to put in there, or green chilies. You know, we use dry chili flakes. But obviously you can add anything you want. We got basil on the balcony that we should have added. You can add leafy greens. You can chop up some spinach and put it in there to make it healthier. It really is one of those things, like if you want to be a purist, I wouldn't even know how to be a purist for something like this. It's not something I grew up eating. But if you just want to have something tasty, then just throw in the flavors that you want. Maybe even some nutritional yeast or something like that. Okay.
But you don't have to. I mean, like I said, we tested this recipe and the brown onion soup really does give it like that depth of flavor that you need.
And I think that's the point, you know, we could have made this even without the curry, but then it wouldn't really be a bhaji, I don't think. But if you just want to make sort of like if you want to just call it like an onion bite, you can just use flour, the onion sauce, and a little bit of water and the onions, and it will come out pretty good. We've got some more.
Pepper's on the top. Just moving the hot pan off the.
Yeah, let's get rid of that pan.
And then I'll take off. I took this off because the bites are quite big.
Oh, they're nice and crispy. And voila, so there's your little starter. Obviously we're going to cook up the rest of the batch, and this is going to be our probably enough for dinner. We had a really big lunch today. So thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. If you do cook this at home or anything similar or anything else with any of the great Knorr products, please share it on your social media and tag ProVeg ZA and yeah, enjoy.
ProVeg will also post the recipe on their feed so that you can rewatch this if you want to, or you can click on the link and follow the recipe through to the Knorr website. So I guess we better log off so that Don and I can both eat.
Cheers, thank you very much.